What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy Chris Lee TV back again with another video. With the last interview we did, I had Marquie on here. We had a pretty good conversation. I had some pretty good feedback on YouTube, and I wanted to finish the conversation out. Thank you for coming back, Marquie. Last time we talked about leasing, family, and your experience over the last the last 17 years of being a truck driver. Today, I wanted to get more into the entrepreneurship, the entrepreneur side of things. I know that we talk about that a lot on the spaces on Mondays, and also, the money and the finances, the credit. We talk about that a lot. Also, what kind of got you? Like, I think last time we talked about you kind of seeing the check on the counter. And then driving for 17 years, leasing and things like that. So what got you like with the mindset of, getting your finances in order to build credit and things like that? Like, because I think credit is a topic that we don't talk about a lot because there's a lot of miseducation, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of what I'm saying? We're not properly educated as in some instances. So you have to really seek out that type of knowledge to want to build your credit. So what kind of got you started with that?
Well, just like you say, it's a lot of misinformation out there. And then, we're taught that credit is a monster and that you just don't mess with credit cards, and we're taught to fear credit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a victim of that also. I've had that mentality where I'm not dealing with credit and things like that. And then as I started doing research, because as soon as I got my CDL and started driving my first truck, I wanted to become an owner operator.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on I said, well, when I started, switching jobs and, leaving this job and going to that job and going to the different orientations and finding out how companies were doing things, I'm like, listening to some of the companies that I was going through the orientation and how they got started. I'm like, that don't sound hard,
Right.
like it's something that's impossible to do. And so I felt like I could do that too. And so I started educating myself on different aspects of being like an entrepreneur and being a legitimate business
Mm-hmm.
owner. And so what I learned was, credit was a powerful tool.
For sure.
And I drove for 12 years or 11 years before I decided to start, working on building my credit, because what I found out was credit is the most important part of your business. It's even more important than establishing your business credit, because there's a majority of the stuff that you not going to be able to get done if your personal credit ain't right.
Yeah.
And so having that personal credit right, you can give yourself access to millions and millions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
through business financing. But you got to show that you can, manage your personal business before they'll trust you with what you need for your actual business. And
100%.
so when I first started, I think my credit score was somewhere around either 388 or 488,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't using any credit. I wasn't using bank accounts. I just totally took myself off the map because I was having trouble, managing credit, and was every week I was having to pay those overdraft fees, and I just couldn't get my finances right. But then I started listening to audiobooks. I started listening to podcasts and YouTube and stuff like that. And then once I started, learning, I was getting a lot of misinformation.
Right.
One person was saying, like pay everything off. Another person was saying leave a balance on it. So I kept getting 10 and 15 different answers to
Mm-hmm.
one question. And so I said, I need to learn this stuff by experience. I need to do it and then see what works and see what
Mm-hmm.
don't works. And so that's what I started. And I just started as kind of like an experiment to see,
Yeah.
what'll work. And as I started experimenting, I just started getting approved for more and more things. And before I knew it, I had like 50 some credit cards.
Right.
And so I said, well, these can be used to, help me with the maintenance on my truck to keep my business, flowing properly.
Mm-hmm.
And then while I was getting educated on the personal credit, I started doing research on the business credit. And then I just started finding out more and more information on the
Hmm.
business credit, and just how much more you could get if your personal credit is right. And so, and that's what kind of led me to want to do, the entrepreneur thing, because I was not only that as far as the credit side, but I was dealing with a lot of companies that just wasn't doing business right. Like I was getting shorted on my check, or I wasn't getting my check at all. And then they would make me wait till the following week to get money they owed me this week. But I'm like, I delivered your load. Why should I have to wait a week to get my check? And so I was looking up, and it was just constantly one thing after the other. Like they gave me, I had bad dispatchers, and then they gave me dispatchers that was trying to run my truck like a company truck. When
Right.
I'm an owner operator, I would get to a place and it's supposed to have a preloaded trailer. And then I get there, the trailer ain't loaded, it's not even in the door. And they
Hmm.
saying this may take them 2-3 days to get it loaded. And the dispatcher trying to make me wait there for 2 and 3 days, but they don't want to pay me the proper layover pay. They
Right.
trying to give me company layover pay, like $25 to $50 a day instead of like $250 a day. And so I was just like, with stuff like that constantly happening, I was like, I just need to get me a truck and break away from these companies so that I can dictate how the truck move, and
Right.
I can dictate what I do.
100%. What are like three things you took away from when you were doing like your research with finances? What were three things you took away that you would give somebody like starting it off, or like a book or anything? What would you recommend someone start to get on that path?
Um, there was some books that I read. One of them was the Richest Man in Babylon.
Hmm. That's one of
There
my
was another
favorites.
one called 48 Laws of Power,
Hmm.
and then Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And and so those three books are kind of what started stirring me, in the right direction as far as like financing, or finances. And then three things that I took away is, one, don't procrastinate, because we quick to say, well, I'm gonna do this when I get this in order, I'm gonna do that when I get that in order.
Hmm.
And the longer you wait until you get certain things done, you're gonna find that time passing. 1 year gonna turn to 2 years, 2 years gonna turn into three, three gonna turn into five, five gonna turn into 10. So you have to get out of that mentality of saying I'm gonna wait on this and wait on that. And you have to be more aggressive towards the goals you want to accomplish, because the sooner you get on things and get them done, the better off you're gonna be.
100%.
And then two, I would say fear. You know, fear is one of the biggest hindrance. Fear of the unknown. We're so scared of things that we create in our mind
Hmm.
that it blocks us from a lot of success that we could be having. And
True.
and and until we, step out of that fear, just like I said, credit is taught to be a monster. Like even when I was married, I was trying to, get my wife to do certain things, and
Hmm.
I was trying to get my son to do certain things, but because of the fears that was instilled in them, they refused to do the things that I was instructing them to do,
Hmm.
which was going to make their life easier and better.
Right.
And so, you know, it showed in their lives with the stuff that they struggling with, financially. And it also showed in my life with the doors that was open for me.
Hmm.
So, credit can open doors, but until you remove that fear, and we'll just make up things in our mind like, I'm gonna get denied if I apply for this.
Yeah.
I seen a video on YouTube about this company, Citizens Bank, and they had came up with a website where you could apply for a business credit card without a hard pull.
Hmm.
And so, the first started talking to me saying, you're not going to get approved. You don't have a bank account with them. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to try.
Yeah.
It's not going to be nothing against me. They're not doing a hard pull. I'll just see what they say.
Why not? Right.
And they ended up giving me a $15,000 business credit card,
Mm.
with no relationship with him at
Yeah.
all. I had never even heard of him before I saw the YouTube video. And
Yeah.
then I say number three was one of the biggest problems that I had, and that was planning.
Yeah.
You know, I would plan to death. I would plan and make plans and make a backup plan and a backup to the backup and a backup for the backup of the backup. But
Yeah. I
then I
got that
wouldn't
issue.
execute none
Yeah,
of
I got
those
that issue.
plans.
Yeah.
And so when I would talk to other people about, like, they would ask me about how to get certain things, going in their business,
Mm-hmm.
and I would tell them what they need to do, and they would actually go do the things I say, and then they would come up and end up making money off the information I shared with them. But then I'm getting kind of upset and jealous because they're doing good off of information I told them, but then I'm not doing good off of it. But I'm like, that's because they're executing
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just planning. And
Right.
so you make your plans, you set your goals, and then you aggressively pursue them. And
Gotcha.
so those would be the three things that I would say would be, that I took away from everything.
Okay. And yeah, that's pretty good. Like you were saying, like that's one of the things I do is I plan 30 businesses, have them all mapped out, and don't do but maybe one or two of them. But yeah, that kind of hit home with me. Something I probably need to stop doing is doing all the planning, you know what I'm saying, just execute, especially with this YouTube channel. I have
Yeah,
it's a lot of potential behind this you know what I'm saying, social media, creating content and stuff like that. That's one of the things I'm trying to get back into. But that has to do with entrepreneurship. Um with me as a kid, like I saw entrepreneurship as like a way out. I like the idea of being able to work for yourself and things like that. Um, what was like kind of your you know what I'm saying, like that bug that got you wanting to be an entrepreneur? And then
uh,
what were some of your
okay.
early businesses, you know what I'm saying, things that you kind of started
Uh,
off doing and kind of brought with you to trucking?
well, my first business started when I was 4 years old,
Okay.
and it was with marbles.
Yeah.
I grew up in the projects, and we played marbles every day,
Hmm.
and I just happened to be real good at marbles.
Yeah.
And so I won so many marbles that I had a potato sack full of marbles,
Hmm.
and you couldn't even move that sack because it was so heavy.
Jeez.
And then I had, a unfortunate, chain of incidents. My grandmother died, and so I had to move in with my great grandmother. She came and took me from my mother because my mother was a teenage mother,
Hmm.
and so she just felt like, with her running the streets and doing all the stuff she was doing, she wouldn't be able to raise a kid. So I moved in with my great grandmother, and so they had to take the marbles and put them in socks to be able to move all the marbles.
Yeah.
And so when I got out there to her house, they was just getting into marbles on that side
Hmm.
of town. And so what I did was I bought some sandwich bags, and I had friends that was like who had parents in the military, and because it was so popular, they would bring like marbles from like Japan
Hmm.
and Taiwan and Germany and different parts of the world. So I had the like most exotic collection of marbles. So what I did was I put those marbles in a sandwich bag, and I sold like bags of marbles for like 25 and 50-cent bags.
Yeah.
And by the time I got rid of all my marbles, I had like maybe about $100.
Yeah.
And I was about 5 years old then with $100 in my
That's
pocket.
real cool.
And
Yeah.
then we went out to the candy store, and we was buying penny candy.
Hmm.
And so when I was talking to the guy behind the counter, I noticed that they had a big old, you could buy the individual bags. I mean, buy the little pieces of candy, but then they had this big old bag of candy. And I was like, how much is that big bag of candy? And he was like, it was like $10.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, well, with $10, I get way more candy. With that big bag, you
Right.
buying
Right.
these little things. So I ended up buying the big bag of candy. And then I started putting together like grab bags of
Hmm.
candy. And I noticed that every time I spent $10, I made anywhere between $70 to $100 back off that
Mm,
big grab bag. So I started selling that. And then the business I got into after that, I opened a pawn shop before I knew what a pawn shop was.
yeah.
And I think I was about 7 years old this time. And what I did, like if this friend had a He-Man and this friend had a G.I. Joe, and this friend wanted this friend's He-Man and this friend
Hmm.
wanted this friend's G.I. Joe, then they would bring the toy to me and I would swap them out and give them to each other.
Hmm.
But I would charge each of them $1
There you
to
go.
exchange their toys. And so before
Yeah.
I looked at it, I had a room just full of toys and everything. But like a lot of stuff, we get greedy. And we had a new kid move into the neighborhood, and then I noticed he had a whole collection of real nice Atari games because
Hmm.
his mom and dad got divorced, and his mama got everything in a
Hmm.
divorce. And so so I traded him a bunch of old Atari games for his new
For the new
Atari
ones.
game. Yeah, so I kind of got him on that deal. And so his mama came down to the house and told my grandmama what happened. And then so she came in my room and I got raided.
Hmm. That's
And the
not that
business was
stuff.
shut
It was a
down.
good
But
cycle. It was a good run. Yeah.
yeah,
Got to
so
learn a
by the
lot.
time I was 8 years old, I had saved up almost $800
Yeah. That's
just
what's
from all
up.
the little side hustles I was just creating. So I always had a gift of just
Hmm.
creating a business out of nothing.
100%. Yeah.
And that just came from, just growing up with, no mother, father, and just having a sense of I gotta survive and I gotta make it,
Hmm.
for myself and for the people that I'm responsible for.
Understood. So how do you translate that into today when we have, I know we talked about like the cars and stuff like that, like with these new, you know what I'm saying, businesses like Airbnb and stuff like that, like how you translate that uh into
Well,
today's environment.
well, today's environment is it's a lot more easy to
Hmm.
create something because of technology. Technology is basically making it where you can just create a business out of nothing. I mean, it doesn't even have to exist. And just because you think of it, you can create it. So
Yep.
I think it's a lot easier today than it had been in the past. Because just like before, when I was telling you when I got out of jail, I was trying to do every get rich quick scheme I was
Hmm.
seeing on TV.
Right.
But now there are much more, legitimate opportunities, like with the Turo and with the Uber and Lyft
Yeah.
and different things like that. I was looking at this one website where they'll pay you to rent out your truck,
Mm.
and and there was some instances where drivers was getting paid like almost $5,000 a week to lease their truck on to a company that need trucks.
Mm.
And so I mean it's just a lot of opportunities out
For
there,
sure.
but it's just, all about just, educating yourself on that opportunity and figuring out how you can get involved and make it work for you. Because
100%.
everything not gonna work for everybody. One person may get in this business and make $1 million. Another person may get in the same business, duplicate everything they see with that other
Hmm.
person, and end up being in the hole. So it's about just, seeing what's out there for you and then operating in that lane.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. One of the things we talked about, I've had people on the channel who are into music, and I know like that's one of your things. How did you get started in that?
Well, I just always had a deep love for music, like from the time I was a baby, all the way up until now. And like I had an aunt in the country. My grandfather was from East Texas, and like she had a little juke joint and stuff like that, and a lot of old blues singers would come through and stuff
Mm.
like that. I was a little kid holding the can at the door, getting quarters from
Right
all the
on.
musicians coming in. And then my grandfather, he was a jazz musician, and so I just always had a deep love for music. And like when everybody had the little parties and stuff like that, I was 3 and 4 years old operating the turntables and playing all the little records and stuff like that. that everybody was dancing to.
Right on.
And then by the time I got to high school, or actually junior high, my aunt bought me a jam box that I could actually record myself on.
Mm-hmm.
And then after she bought me that, I started learning that I could actually write music. And
Gotcha.
so I started doing like freestyling and doing music, and then later on I ended up getting songs on the radio and performing and meeting artists that I grew up listening to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think my last live show was with UGK and Too Short.
Right
And
on.
so, and that was like back in 2000. And then in 2010, I took a year off the road because I made so much money off the stock market that I just went ahead and paid my bills up for a year. And then I enrolled in school because I could play some things by ear, but
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to actually learn how to read music so that I know what I'm playing. And so I enrolled in school and studied sound engineering, took piano classes, took theory classes, took music business classes. And when I took the music business class, that's when I understood music on a whole nother level. And I started seeing the power of the business of music. And so that's what I'm mainly focused on now when it comes to the music side of my business. Is I'm focusing on creating content and building up my library, and then maybe working on developing artists later on
Gotcha.
once I'm able to, get some of my other businesses ran by employees, and I'm able to just free my time up to do more music and actually movies too, because besides
Mm.
music, I write, and so I
Yeah,
have a bunch of movie ideas that I want to produce, like independent films.
for sure.
And so, I got some shows I think could, give 50 a run for his money as far as power, just,
Yeah.
based on my life experiences when I was in the streets and stuff like that. So it's a lot of stuff that I want to do that more on the positive side than the negative,
Yeah, I understand.
try to bring awareness to, certain things, like how guys end up in the street because, a lot of people will look at a drug dealer and be like, oh, that's a bad person. But
Right.
it's a lot of drug dealers out there that went through a lot of things in life and have trouble finding legitimate jobs, but they're very intelligent. And so they
Mm-hmm.
end up, walking on the street side of things, and all they want to do is just take care of the people that they're responsible for. Everybody not out here robbing and stealing and doing things like that, because like when I was in the streets, I was protecting the neighborhood. I was making sure that people wasn't getting robbed. I was making sure that like the dealers wasn't messing around with people kids and different things like
Right,
that,
right.
and making sure people houses and cars didn't get broken into. Some of the single mothers and fathers, I was making sure that they had the money for their bills and their light bills and
Mm-hmm.
water bill. And if anybody came up short, they came and hollered at me and I helped them out. And the majority of the time I never even asked for the money back. And then some of the kids that was, real smart and wanted to, go on some of the field trips, but they couldn't do it because their mother, father was on drugs. I would pay for their field trip and get them money that they need to eat lunch and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
I was pretty much policing the neighborhood that I was in.
Got you. So, um, just to segue back to the trucking industry. So how are you using the trucking industry to um, keep doing kind of what you were doing before, but like in a different type of way, just to keep, I'm saying, keep you rolling and keep you I'm saying, within the lifestyle and doing the things that you want to do, like um how are you using the trucking industry to do that?
Well, the trucking gives me the freedom to be able to do things financially without having to necessarily get a loan.
Gotcha.
I have to, be a little more patient and wait on things. But the money I make off of trucking, it finances my music company, it
Hmm.
finances my film company, it finances all of my dreams.
Yeah.
Because the money I make off of trucking, especially being a straight up owner operator now and being under my authority, is way more money than I make as a company driver. So when it's things I want, I can just get it
Right.
because the money is there. But at the same time, I understand that if I use the trucking properly, I can get myself access to millions and millions of dollars in financing
Hmm.
because the income is so high.
For
And
sure.
so if you can show that you can make $10,000 a month consistently for 3 months, then you got companies out there that'll give you business lines of credit and business credit cards and small business loans and working capital loans
Hmm.
for millions of dollars. But you just got, excuse me, you just got to do the work it takes to just show that information and show that you can make those finances.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm in the process of doing right now is staying out and working so that I can show the money that they need to see for 90 days so that I can put myself in position to get that financing that I need to be able to expand my trucking company by hiring drivers, by buying trailers, by purchasing possibly a warehouse
Hmm.
to park my trucks at and possibly do warehousing work and storing customers' products and stuff like that.
For sure. I think that's like a lot of the like groundwork, the behind the scenes stuff that people don't get to see. Um, that they just see the end product, the finished product, and try to kind of go from there. Like, and I understand like kind of the hard work that goes into it, but I appreciate you like kind of shedding that light on, what I'm saying, really crawling before you run. Um,
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you was like, what makes you want to keep doing this stuff? What makes what I'm saying? Like we talked about the many businesses you had and the stuff like that, but and kind of what motivated you to do it. But sometimes things change, what I'm saying, and the people around you change, and like uh, what keeps you, what I'm saying, wanting to keep running? Like you outrun a lot of people, I'm sure, that are around you that um oh, they're giving me the warning again in 10 minutes. Dang, that went by quick. All right, yeah. So yeah, just a pretty basic question, you know what I'm saying? Just what um keeps you motivated to do these types of things?
Well, the one thing about my life, when I was young, I was always more mature.
Yeah.
So I didn't really because I was forced to be because of things that was going on in my life. So like when I was
Hmm.
5 years old, I was hanging out with the teenagers. When I was a teenager, I was hanging out with like 20 and 30-year-old men. And then when I was like 18 and 19, I was sitting around talking to the old school cats.
Gotcha.
And, just getting familiar with their lives and seeing some of the things that they had when they was young versus how they was forced to live their lives as they were old. And a lot of people in our community, still have to work in their 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s.
Hmm.
They spent their entire life working and they don't have nothing to show for it, or they can't, be comfortable because they have to work. And
100%.
and that's one thing that I don't want to be in a position. If I work, I want to work because I want to work and because I love working. I
Hmm.
don't want to work because I'm forced to do
Right.
it. And so what keeps me motivated is I'm always thinking about the future.
Yeah.
And in the future, I don't want to be struggling, because just like right now, I'm having some health issues and it's making it harder to do
Hmm.
my job, but the job still has to be done. So
Yep.
through all the health issues and whatever else I got going on, I still have to get things done.
Yep.
And I don't like to struggle and I don't like to lack. And so that's what motivates me to keep going because I don't want to ever be in a position to where I need anyone else or I have to depend on somebody else. And when I say somebody else, I mean like a job, job, just over
Hmm.
broke, because
Yeah.
these people don't care nothing about you. They only care about you keeping them rich.
For
You
sure.
just a number to them, and then as soon as they don't need you no more, or can't use you anymore, they kick you to the curb and replace you.
Hmm.
And I don't want to be in that position. And I'm like, if I'm building my own company, then the chances of me being in that position is going to be a lot lower. And especially if I'm doing things the right way, because I worked for enough companies that didn't do things the right way and seeing how it worked out for them, losing
Hmm.
drivers, losing the company, losing everything they had. I don't want to be in that position.
I understand that completely. That's a great answer, and yeah, I can relate to it because one thing that I think truck drivers don't do is plan for the future. I seen it's kind of what made me want to write my book and get more into the financial side of trucking, talk more about finances. Is that I didn't see like a bunch of drivers. I didn't see a lot of young drivers. Like when I first started 5 years ago, it was a lot of older drivers. You know, like I said, the game wasn't really being put out there like that. Nobody really put me on to truck driving. I never, you know, I don't recall meeting truck drivers growing up. But like I said, one thing I did see as soon as I came in was like older men still driving, like being 70, 80, 90 years old, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, how, yeah, that's cool that they have somewhere that they can work, you know what I'm saying? And it's still like they maintain their independence. But I was like, why are they working? Was it for, you know what I'm saying, just because that's their lifestyle? And it is a lifestyle, trucking. But I also thought it was an issue with not having a plan to retire. And that's kind of what kind of scared me into wanting to learn about finances and money and credit and budgeting and life insurance and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I dove into. I guess it was like a fear thing. It was like, man, I don't want to be that guy that dies at the wheel. Like, what do I need
Yeah,
to do to make sure that I can establish some things so that doesn't
that's what I
happen?
tell my friends all the time is that I don't want to die in the truck.
Yeah,
And so, I'm working to build things that'll get me out the truck because just like I said, I've done 17 years driving. So now it's time for me to, start moving into some of these other business ideas and
hmm,
business opportunities that I've been finding.
yeah, and that's what I like about you, man, because I guess that kind of resonated with my thought process at the beginning of my journey and as a truck driver was what can I do just to, you know what I'm saying, just use trucking as like I always say it as a stepping stone into something
Yeah,
else. And yeah, I think like you really have a good plan and you have like you know what I'm saying, you have everything kind of, you know what I'm saying, kind of your stars are aligning in that aspect where you're able to use the trucking to fund the things that you want to do and how you want to live your life. So I think that's pretty cool. I got 4 minutes left. I have everything from the last interview as far as the social medias. Everybody, please check out the last interview I did with Marquie. We talked about leasing, family, his 17 years driving. This interview was the part two where we spoke about money, finances, credit, and entrepreneurship. Any last words you want to say to the people before we end this?
well, like and subscribe and
For sure,
follow the channel.
for sure. Got you. And make sure you guys check out these show notes below, so you can find all of Marquis' social media, where Spotify, his YouTube, and his Twitter. I appreciate everybody watching. This is your boy Chris Lee TV, and we didn't get to do it in the outro last time, but deuces
Most definitely.
for sure.
Enjoyed it. Available anytime.
Got you. All right.